Hello, Philadelphia! I'm Bruce Buffer. It's time for the Anthony Gorgano Show!
Good morning! Good morning, everybody. Well, a happy Wednesday to all across the Delaware Valley. Hope you guys survived the storm. That was a nasty one, man. Let's talk about a light show all night long. Crazy rain, wind. I guess we got round 2 coming tonight, and that'll break some of the heat wave. Welcome. We got a fun show for you today. Very excited to talk. Obviously, the All-Star game. I loved it. It was just a blast. So we'll discuss that. We got some football on the docket. And we got some hoops and an old friend. This is the Anthony Gargano Show presented by Rite Aid. Find all of your favorite goods from the Rite Aid store nearest you. Devon Givens from our all PHLY Sixers show will join us. Those guys were in Vegas covering the Summer League, so we're going to get a report about the Sixers Summer League. We'll talk how the final roster looks now that Lowry's in tow, and this is kind of what it looks like. So we'll get into a little Sixers action. And then coming up at 10 o'clock, special guest, dear friend, he's like my brother, Mikey Miss Missanelli will join us live in studio. So Mikey Miss will come in. We'll talk all things Philadelphia sports, and we'll spin a lot of yarn is my guess. We'll talk a lot of old stories and a lot of fun stuff. So we'll dive into that with Mikey Miss. It'll be a lot of fun. So I walk in today, and of course, Andrew and JP are playing the college football 25. And I immediately got jealous. I was like, oh, man, I just want to blow off the day and play that game, which is incredible. Tomorrow, we'll do a lot of college football on the program. But last night was the All-Star game, and it was Philadelphia Central. It was Philly Central. Of course, led by Bryce. Is there a better ambassador ever in this town? I don't think so. I remember, I go way back when I was a kid, Julius Erving was this incredible ambassador, right? Very well respected throughout the NBA. He was like this erudite, beautiful basketball player who was, very cool and had this whole kind of mantra, had this whole thing about him, I should say. And he was a great ambassador. Bryce is even better because he's as respected as Doc, but he's so completely down to earth, and he just preaches Phillies. Like, he was asked several times. It was great because last night you had our boys all the mic'd up, which was awesome, right? Bohm, Turner, Bryce, all mic'd up. And, it was like all about the Phillies. And Bryce kept talking about it. I think somebody made a joke about Ketel Marte being the only non-Philly. And he goes, and Kevin Burkhardt, who I love from Fox, says to Bryce, I guess you got a lot of inside jokes. And he said, no, we don't do that stuff. And it was funny because it was just exactly like who he is. He talks about, he must have said it 5 times. The key to the Phillies is this great camaraderie that they have in a clubhouse. And he kept talking about it. And he kept hammering home the point. And it was just one of those great nights where it was like a Phillies celebration of the Phillies. Turner makes an absolute incredible web gem in the field, going to his left, robbing a hit. Like, that thing was what a play he makes. Bryce nearly goes yard. I mean, that thing, I thought it was gone. That thing just died. Bohm had a great showing in the home run hitting contest, was good in the field, had a hit. And all the pitchers pitched. Sanchez was great. Strom did his job. Even Hoffman gets into the game. It was one of those just great nights. And it was a good ball game, too. 5-3 AL wins. I watched start to finish, and if I can tell you, I enjoyed every second of it. It was just a blast. It was great It was a great ball game. The baseball All-Star game is the best of all the All-Star games. It's not even close. It's the one I enjoy the most, and it was. I thought it was great. Great celebration of the game, and again, what's not to love about all the Phillies being front and center? That's popping off. Brought to you by Olipop. Check out Olipop, your nearest Wawa. The soda that's good for you. Good morning, my boys. JP, John Zapata, VG, Violations, Greg.
What up?
So last night, it was one of those special kind of celebration of the Phillies. That's a rare thing. First of all, obviously, to get that many players from your team is rare.
Right.
But, like, it was a celebration, I felt, of the Phillies all night long.
Yeah, no, it was great to see just the Phillies just kind of be in front stage of everyone. And obviously, you mentioned the interview. That interview was freaking awesome because I talked about it yesterday. 3/4 of the infield yesterday were all Phillies. And imagine being Ketel Marte, right? Like, you beat the Phillies last year in the NLCS, and here you are now in this infield in the All-Star game with 3 other Phillies. I thought it was freaking phenomenal. We had all of our hitters at least get a hit. All of our pitchers, they didn't allow any earned runs. It was just a great night to be
Turner
proud.
makes the great play in the field.
Oh, my God.
And Bryce just missed that home. He just missed that home run, man.
Dude, Turner, they say it's the greatest play mic'd up in the history of mic'd up now.
Yeah.
Now we got to.
I mean, it was all
revisit
Phillies.
that.
I watched a lot of the pregame. I had to do a bunch of work, so I had that on in the background. And it was all Phillies talk, whether you're on ESPN, MLB. It's just like how they are
Yeah,
just
I was on MLB.
the strongest team from top to bottom, no weaknesses. And, they were giddy to have the 3 guys mic'd up. I don't think the Phillies were as giddy as the broadcast was, but and can they test it out? Because did you hear the one guy they went to? He said it was so loud.
Yeah, he couldn't hear.
Oh, come on, fellas.
Yeah,
Let's test this out.
I know. Because he goes, man, it was too,
I don't know if you can hear this, but it's real loud.
It's way loud. Right. Yeah, it was funny.
So I want to ask you guys, has there ever been an All-Star game, Pro Bowl, whatever, where Philadelphia kind of just took over the roster? Like, I'm looking back at some of those teams, maybe like the 04 Eagles when you had, we had so many starters.
The Pro Bowl was for bogus.
Even back in the 2000s, though?
Yeah, it was. I mean, they did it, but it was pretty much for bogus. Guys didn't show up. Guys didn't, the Pro Bowl. If I think about the baseball MLB All-Star game, I guess I got to go back to like when we were kids and it was Schmidt, and Boa, and Pete Rose, and
well, like
Carlton.
Last night, 3 Phillies got hits. The last time 3 Phillies got hits in an All-Star game was 1978.
I saw that.
So let me see. It was Boa.
Yep.
Schmitty.
Nope.
Oh
no, because it was pre-Pete. So was it Gary Maddox?
Nope.
Oh my God, Bake McBride?
Nope. 1978.
1978.
Yep.
So I'm just trying to think who would make it. So Trio, Lazinski.
I was going to say Lazinski.
So now you got Boa, Bull.
Bob Boone?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Bob Boone was like the weakest hitting catcher.
And he was
like,
a big guy.
I heard.
Big dude, word number 8, right? Big guy.
How tall was he?
I don't know, 6'2", maybe, but like he was
a little
thick,
tall in some
thick
of those
guy.
videos.
But he had a pencil bat.
He did have a pencil bat.
and it was funny because, and when you're a kid, like Bob Boone was not my favorite. Now he was a terrific defensive catcher, had good arm, handled pitching staff, but he just didn't hit. And you're a kid, you're like, I remember getting excited when Keith Moreland came onto the scene because he had a bat.
Yeah.
Because you're used to when you were
he was a thick guy.
Yeah. But that's a great nugget. Let me ask you, because we're contemporaries, Bryce the greatest Philadelphia ambassador?
Yes.
It's not even close, right?
Not even close.
Doc would be 2.
Doc, yes, but he was a little like quiet.
Yes.
So like Bryce, everyone wants a piece of Bryce on the broadcast. It's a big deal, and he just does it right all the time.
He does.
We got a clip of him talking about Dombrowski. You want to hear?
Yeah,
that?
I do. I've heard it. I want to hear it again. I think our audience needs to hear it because you didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Take a listen. Here's Bryce talking about Dave Dombrowski.
Your relationship with Dave Dombrowski, what he brings to the table for you.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. That's crazy. I mean, obviously, I'm super grateful for my time growing up and the way I kind of grew up and the moments that it's got me ready for and prepared for these moments. I'm so grateful for where I am right now on a team and where a place. And where I'm at as a a clubhouse and everything else, and all the players I'm around. It's not just me on that team. It's not just Bryce Harper. It's everybody. And we are such a good team with hanging out, going to dinner. You guys know how that is. When the camaraderie is good, when the culture is good in the clubhouse, there's nothing better. And Dave Dombrowski brings in the right guys no matter what. I got chills because I know exactly what Dave wants to do. He wants to win. And it's not just this year. Somebody brought it up today. Is it World Series or bust? No, it's World Series every year, right? Like that's what the mindset is. And you guys know playing in New York, that's what it is. You same thing in Boston. That's what it is.
That's awesome.
How great is
that?
that?
Yeah.
And this is why Bryce is the best ambassador in the history of Philadelphia sports, is because that answer is the perfect answer. And it's real. It's genuine, right? He's like, it's not just me. It's not just Bryce Harper. It's, this whole clubhouse. And we're not looking to shortchange it by saying it's World Series or bust, which he's right. I said this a million times. Like, you got to be able to be in the mix, right? It's all about longevity, and you hope you grab one. Like the Phillies 08 team was not their best team. It was probably their least. If you would go, you go 11, 10, 9, and then 8, right? Mm-hmm. And 8 broke through. Things just kind of fell their way.
Yeah, no, but I think the most important thing of what he said there was Dumbo got the right guys in here. Dombrowski got the right people here because, listen, it's easy to throw money around, especially in baseball with all these high payrolls. But you look at the Padres last year. They had a lot of talented players, but it wasn't the right mix. Dombrowski's gotten the right players, spent the money, but it's the right mix, and you're seeing it out every day when they're playing.
Yeah, he is the great chemist.
I agree with that old head who wrote Ruben the letter we had on the Nugs about using nicknames. Dumbo.
Yeah, you got to.
Even Bryce doesn't call him Dumbo.
Dumbo. Mr.
Dombrowski does get the right players here, but let's keep it real. Like, Bryce is the recruiter.
Yes.
And you saw after the game, or was it before the game, they asked Ohtani who he was most impressed with, and he says Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper stood out to him. I mean, it's just the way he goes about his business. The way he goes about everything is a magnet for top talent people.
That's another key, though. The relationship between your star player and the front office.
Yes,
it's important.
Yes, and the star player standing in the sport, because not all the time is the star player well liked and respected in the sport. And Harper is. I got to tell you, you brought up Ohtani. He might be the greatest player I've ever seen.
When he's not here.
When he's not here. You want to talk about the big moment, and he jumped on that pitch.
He was all over it.
Wow, he crushed that ball. That thing was like a monster shot, man. And you just saw him, right? He just attacks it. And he's such a great hitter, right? Yeah. He leads off the game with a walk, or a one-out walk. Mm-hmm. And he's fast. He steals bases. Like, there's nothing he doesn't do. Like, he really is a freak. Like, he hits with enormous power. He can run and steal bases. And, by the way, he pitches.
Yeah, he throws 100.
Right? Like, that's incredible.
His swing is beautiful.
Oh, it's
so fluid.
It really is. I don't think we appreciate how great he is.
I can't. Well, first of all, he was in Anaheim, where good players go to die, aka Mike Trout.
Yes.
And now he's a Dodger, so I can't appreciate
to take a little
him.
jab at Mike Trout.
He's a Dodger. I'm going to have a little bit of So I wish he was at, like, the Padres or just someone. It's a team I don't hate.
I know. I know.
It's easy to hate the Dodgers.
No, it is. I mean, that's what makes the rivalry so great, though. That's Phillies Dodgers is something that
it'll be Bryce and Ohtani for a while.
Yeah, it will be. Bryce 31. Like, you guys in the thick of his prime right now over the next few years. So, like, those guys, that's a lot of fun.
Make a great playoff series in 2024. And by the way, Ohtani took an RBI away from our man Trey Turner.
Yeah. But I got to tell you, the other thing that stood out to me was all the great arms,
dude.
The collection of arms that we watched yesterday that's why baseball is the best game, because you're going out. You saw Skeens was terrific, right?
How about Skeens versus the Yankees?
Mason Miller. Skeens versus. And how about Soto saying, I'm getting Judge to the plate.
Yes.
And Judge went right first. Think about it. First pitch hacking.
Yep.
That was pretty good.
That was entertaining stuff, guys.
And how about all the line? That Mason Miller was throwing 102.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, did you see his comments? He was talking about Bryce.
Yeah.
Oh, I
think
missed
Andrew's
that
got
one.
this loaded up.
All right, come on, dude. Let me hear it. I got to hear Mason Miller, baby.
Miller.
Has anybody come up to you and just said, I'm scared as hell of you?
Oh, it's funny, on the plane ride here, Bryce came back and introduced himself, which was super cool. But yeah, after we played them this weekend, our first base coach, Bobby Crosby, had told me that Harper was asking when I was warming up, like, hey, is that Miller? Like, I kind of want to get in there and see what that's about. And then I threw Friday, it was up to like 104. So I saw him on the plane. I was like, I heard you wanted to get in and see me. He's like, I'm good. I changed my mind.
Wow.
104. He got up to 104, that kid. You know what was an amazing story? He was throwing 88. He was topping out at 88 4 years ago. Did you see that?
I heard them tell that story. I didn't really follow the whole story.
They said 4 years ago, Mason Miller was topping out at 88 miles an hour.
I don't know how that happens.
And how do you go from 88 to 104 consistently?
I go through Tommy John or something?
Well, I mean, but that's
Hey, now.
but that really doesn't. Your arm action. I mean, they talked about changing his arm action, which obviously the whip that you get in your arm action is what generates a lot of that velo.
Oh, maybe Provolone John says he was a type 1 diabetic. Maybe he was not diagnosed.
That was it.
He wasn't
I'm
diagnosed.
sorry. Thanks, Provolone John. Yes, he was a type 1 That was it. They realized that he was a type 1 diabetic. He got on his meds, and then he shot up.
Wow,
right.
yeah, he got a little heavier and
that
stronger.
was it. Yeah, thanks, Provolone John. That was the story. I forgot that piece of the story.
What I love about baseball, too, is the uniforms. I don't love these uniforms that they wear. I want them to wear their own team uniforms.
I like the team uniforms.
Yeah, but there's something about the managers. Bruce Bochy, when he comes out.
Dude, I love Bruce Bochy. Did
Look
you
at this. He's got the little gut hanging over.
Yeah.
Bruce Bochy in the uniform.
He's awesome. I love those old baseball guys.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I love those guys. There's something so homey about those guys. Did you see? So there was a moment where Ortiz is on the field and he goes and he interviews Bochy. And
Yes.
Bochy has that, that smokers.
He's like grizzled.
draw. Yeah. Hey, Poppy. Like, he had that line. He was like typecast 101
Yes.
of the movie manager.
Yes.
Hey, Poppy. Yeah,
he could have been an MLB or a major league. Right?
it was great. Like, it was just an awesome. I loved it. I got to tell you.
Yeah, the only thing that stood out that irritated me was as the game was starting, they had the interviews on the field at like second base while they're getting ready to start the game. I was like, get off the field.
Too many interviews.
Yeah. Well, they did do a lot of. I mean, I get what they're doing between mic'd up, and then you got Rosenthal, you got Verducci, like they're all over. I mean, how many interviews are you going to do?
Right. Yeah. I mean, they do have to. Maybe they're aware they do have to do a better job of marketing these players and their superstars.
Yeah.
Because with the way it's the rule changes, the time restrictions, the game is growing in popularity. I think getting rid of the shift was a big deal. And the game, as it's growing, they've never been really good at promoting their athletes.
Yeah, they're
and their
starting
stars.
to. You can see.
They're
You can
trying
see.
to build personalities with them and stuff.
You can definitely tell that they're allowing them to be more, the star. They're bringing out the personality, and it's enjoyable. Because there are some good
Like even
personalities out the
Salvador
league.
Perez, who doesn't speak a lot of English. I love him. He was great. Like, okay, big goal. Like, you want to go, how cool is that?
Yeah,
like,
that's pretty awesome. Big Bobby running around with the
Me
microphone.
too.
It's great.
Yeah, I felt the same
entertaining,
thing.
man.
Very entertaining. All right, we got lots to do. We got Devon Givens coming up. I'm dying to talk some hoops, and we'll get a little update into what we saw, what Devon saw in Vegas, Summer League, and then I want a big picture conversation of the roster. Right? And, how they look. This is going to be a lot of fun. So we'll talk to Devon. We got the big brain. And, of course, Mikey Miss coming up at 10 o'clock. Mikey and I have done this once or twice together.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
This is going to be so entertaining.
Yeah. I'm hoping he's not too nervous with this new format.
That'll be a lot of fun. All right, take it away there, JP.
All right, guys. Well, listen, it's that time in the morning. You know, as we talk about, we're drinking the coffees. We're getting a little thirsty. You know, obviously, VG's got the Gatorade. And where are we going to go for our beverages? Guys, we're only going to go to Rite Aid for all of our beverages. No matter what it is you need to quench your thirst, Rite Aid has it for you. From waters, purified spring, electrolyte, distilled, and alkaline bottles of water. They even have flavored water. If you're someone who doesn't like the taste of water, you want a little bit of flavoring, they got that there for you as well. Coconut water. Guys, coconut water is extremely underrated here, all right? It boosts a power-packed array of essential nutrients, fat-free, it's gluten-free. For our boy Versace back there, non-GMO, and less than 1% of sugar, guys. Single-serve iced teas for VG. Juices and lemonades, they have them all there for you. Sweetened with real sugar, no preservatives for those drinks. And they have the juices for the crowd. Pineapple, cranberry, apple, strawberry lemonade, so many flavors that you could choose from. They even have those organic options that we're looking for now these days as well. And whether it be for, you know, just to eat with your lunch, or if you want to mix it with for your cocktail, they have it all there for you. They even have cold pressed juices if you're trying to get nice and fit. All right, we still got plenty of time for summer, guys. You got time. And it's important to stay hydrated, especially during the summer months. Get refreshment delivered to you today. Shop online at riteaid.com/shop. You can get same-day delivery, or you can just buy anything online that they have in there. You can even pick up at the store. Anything refreshing, all the products that they have as far as drinks go, you can get it here today through Rite Aid. So thank you to our friends over at Rite Aid. Make sure you guys head on over to riteaid.com/shop. But speaking of summer, guys, listen, not only do you have to stay not only does your thirst need to be quenched, but you also need to protect your eyeballs out there. So we want to make sure that we're protecting those eyeballs with our friends over at Shady Rays. And we're always talking about Shady Rays here, guys, because we want to make sure not only are you protecting those eyeballs, but you're also styling and profile. And Shady Rays has a wide range of different styles that you can select from. And of course, you don't have to break the bank, and that's the best part about it, all right? I'm a big sunglass guy. I love different companies, but the best part, I don't have to spend $500 for a pair of sunglasses. I don't have to break the bank, and I'm still getting a really good quality over Shady Rays. And look, we've all been there in that situation where we happen to lose or break our sunglasses. Where Shady Rays comes in handy is if you happen to break or lose them, the first one they will replace there for you. Nobody's doing that. And they'll just take it from me, take it from over the 300,000 people who have rated Shady Rays 5 stars or more. And as always, guys, we hook you up with that promo code for this great product. So if you go on to shadyrays.com right now, get your pair of sunglasses, use the promo code PHLY. That'll get you 35% off your polarized sunglasses here today. Again, that's PHLY, 35% off polarized sunglasses. This summer, guys, make sure you're styling profile, protecting those eyeballs with our friends over at Shady Rays.
My man. Thank you, JP. We appreciate it.
I got a little bit, just a quick minute of Flyers talk.
Whoa.
What about this goaltender who's not coming now?
Yeah, from the KHL. Yeah.
He's been spotted training over in Russia.
He's their
top goalie prospect.
Yeah, he's been teetering back and forth whether he wants to stay or not.
What's to say about your boy Briere?
Oh,
well, we got 2 guys jumping ship.
I just
two
think
top prospects.
I think the problem with him is he doesn't want to play in the AHL.
He's homesick.
That's a big thing too.
I mean, listen, you get those European players, it's hard.
You don't got that homemade borscht for you, man?
Briere coming up a little short, I think.
How good? I don't know how good he was.
He's their top goalie prospect,
I know,
right?
but I don't know how.
No, I mean, I don't think so at the moment. But I mean, it's obviously, listen, it's tough when you're homesick, man. I mean, Danny. But the thing is that Danny has had a good relationship with those players and those teams over in Russia too. So I'm not really concerned about that. I think Koloslov is a unique situation. I think more so, like you mentioned, the homesickness, and also I don't think he wants to play in the AHL. But right now we have a group of goalkeepers or goaltenders. I'm sorry,
goalkeepers. There he is. Gotta get the soccer in there. Goalkeeper.
We have a group of goaltenders who have to prove themselves, and so we'll have to find out to see who's going to step up. You know me, I love my boy Airson.
I will say, do we not have a
Arson's
better?
not a number 1.
No,
but I want to. I'm still giving him.
Come on, JP.
Do we not have a better minor league city than Allentown? Can you put the? I'm serious.
Dude,
is that the main?
On the list of Philadelphia sports and all the things, I can't go to Allentown. Like that's not.
No, I mean, but yeah, I'd get homesick maybe if I'm going to Allentown, but put the guy in a nice city or something. Maybe he's having a good time and he's not homesick.
Well, it used to be the Maine Mariners. You remember the Maine Mariners?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. All right, let me. The boys were in Vegas. This was pretty cool as we covered Summer League here at PHLY, and a firsthand look at all things Sixers between the Summer League team, Joel practicing with Team USA, and joining us to talk about it, our main man, the great Devon Givens. What's up, baby?
What's going on, man? How you doing, man?
Good, brother. Good. How was Vegas? Well, come on, you buried the lead. Well, how was it?
It was great. Outside of the heat, of course, that I'm sure you know about, everybody else knows about. The heat was a real deal, and I really can't say too much about it because we would complain about it, we know that it was really hot back here as well. But when we got there, we got there about 6:30 in the evening, and it was still 115 degrees when we got off the plane and I got out there. So that was an interesting thing because every day it was 117 plus up until
and it doesn't get cooler at night. That's the thing that fools you, is that when you come out at night, you're like, oh my God, and because you're always expecting it to be somewhat cooler, like noticeably cooler. Even here, if it gets, if it's 78, it feels hot at night. 80 feels hot, but there it's over 100 at night.
Yeah, so we had to get our credential on Tuesday morning, right, Ant? So we get up, we walk over to the Bellagio. It was only like 7 minutes away from our hotel. So we walk to the Bellagio, and it's 9:15 in the morning, and it was already 95 degrees. So then we come out of there. We spent about a half an hour in the Bellagio, talked to a couple of people that we knew that we wound up running into. We get outside, 30 minutes later, it's 105. So that's just what we were dealing with in terms of the heat. But even starting there, to your point, the Bellagio, where we were, where things were, where we had to pick our credentials, you're just running into so many people, man. They're just walking around, and it's not a big deal at all. They had a certain part walled off, and we were able to just meet and see so many different people and talk to so many different people about everything in regards to the Sixers. They were a big topic because of Paul George, the offseason that they had, Joel Embiid playing in the Olympics. Some were just simply wondering why he's doing that instead of worrying about his health and making sure that was right instead of worrying about playing in the Olympics. So it was really good, though. Just really good conversations, seeing the basketball, seeing the USA experience. And I have never experienced the Team USA experience from the practice to the exhibition.
I mean, it's big time, right? Like, it's funny. Like when you go around Team USA, it's big time. I mean, the security, the bigness of the operation. It's like a who's who. It feels very elevated.
So let me tell you about our first day at practice. So Derek got there earlier in the day on Monday before we did, so he can go and talk to Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid had a specific time that he was speaking. So Derek got the earlier flight, so he went and spoke to Joel, wrote about it on allphly.com. Kyle and I get there together with Derek on Tuesday. We do the show. We sprint over to Thomas and Mack so we can go see the practice. It's packed in there already. So we go to the media room, and everybody's gone. Now, mind you, we're a half hour earlier than we're supposed to be there. So we get there. The lady was gracious enough to let us know, hey, everybody went over there, so you can just go ahead and head over now. They opened it up. Cool. We go over there. It's hot. So we're standing outside waiting for the security to let us in. There's this guy there, and he says, you can't come in. We're like, wait a minute. What do you mean? Here are our credentials. Here we go. We're in. No, nobody's allowed in here right now. Again, we are a half hour earlier than we're supposed to be. They open it up a half hour earlier to let you see the final 30 minutes of practice. But we're there at 1 o'clock. It's not even 1:30 yet. So we get there, and we're going back and forth. More media people start to come up. And this one guy, he knew someone with USA Basketball. And he was able to eventually get in after standing outside with us for about 15 minutes. And we're like, well, what's going on? Finally, the guy pulls out his badge and says, Secret Service, nobody can get in right now.
Was Obama? It was
No, that was Vice President Kamala Harris in there.
Wow.
While we were standing outside. So they would not let us in. We're standing outside in the heat for 30 minutes. No shade, barely shade. Gus Johnson was calling the game for FS1. He couldn't get in. So we're all standing out there because of Vice President Kamala Harris.
I can just hear Gus doing it. It's blazing. Oh,
it's hot.
Blazing.
So then, so on the other side of the building where we were, just a few feet away, but the wall is, you have to go around the corner. There's a line of fans out there waiting to catch people to get in. They got Dwayne Wade. He went in on the side door. He was fine. Carmelo came a little bit later. Carmelo Anthony, Kyan, his son was with him, a few other people for his podcast. They come in. They wouldn't let him in for a good 10 minutes. And he's standing outside. This is Carmelo Anthony. This is one of the best, the greatest all-time USA basketball players, leading scorer, all that stuff. And he couldn't get in. And then they eventually let him in as well. We finally get in. When we get in, practice is over. They're doing their shooting drills. Then they're starting to bring players up. We never ran into the vice president. She was nowhere to be found. They eventually let her go, of course, which is why they let us in. And but once we get in there, you see everybody. Joel was on the side sitting down talking to Brett Brown, speaking with Lloyd Pierce, who, former Sixer guys that he was there with. A few other Sixer people were just roaming around the building. So many different people were in Thomas and Mack at that time for that practice. It was amazing. And then the game happened the next.
What was Brett doing? What's Brett doing there? Is he one of your?
I think he was just there because in the past he was there with Greg Popovich.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think he was just there to just kind of hang around. Drew Hanlon was there, of course, because of Joel and Jason Tatum. And just a bunch of people. And the next night was crazy. Post game was crazy because of how they have everybody just funneling through in the back for their post game interviews, and they just flow everybody through it. You're in the back. You know how the back is, where outside of the locker room and the tunnel for them to get to the bus. They have everything lined up there where the PR for USA is tight, man. They're running everybody through. You get about a good 5 minutes, and then they're funneling the next person through. And then then it's 4 in a row right together going out. But that was cool, too, because it's kind of open. Because even though she was very, very tight with their time, I got a chance to catch up with Drew Holiday, who I haven't really seen in years since the time that he was here. Knew him well enough back at that time. But as soon as, we saw him, we started talking. It was just good to catch up. And he talked to me. We talked for a little bit. I ran into a couple of people that I had a chance to know from the Canadian team on the staff side. So it was good, man. It was an interesting experience. Who knows if we'll get that again if Embiid plays again. Maybe Maxey is invited in 4 years. That one will be in Los Angeles in 2028. But that was a fun experience. I never had a chance to see anything like that. And watching Joel in that environment, as poorly as he has played in that game, he played much better in game 2. You know that he belonged, though, because the respect that he has from his peers, being in there, his name being with their names, you know that he belongs there. Now, if you want to talk about fit and how Steve Kerr is using him or how he's playing the game overall, can he play FIBA basketball? Can he play Olympic basketball? And trying to bait the officials and the things that he does here in the NBA, that's another conversation. But as far as being there in that environment with those guys, that's a spot that he most certainly belongs in.
So, I know a lot of people are talking about his shape, but that's how it's Joe. That's who he is. Like, we know big man, and it takes a while. You're going to play yourself into shape, and that's kind of Joel. How do you like this team? How do you think is this team going to be dominant?
I do like this team. One of the things that the players stressed, even after game 1, when they really pulled away from Canada in that game, Canada's a smaller team. They want to run. They don't have a lot of size in the front court to deal with Embiid, Adebayo, and Davis. That said, I do like the construction of the team. I think they have everything. I did question the Tyrese Halliburton choice over maybe Jalen Brunson a little bit. But going back to last summer when they had the FIBA team and Brunson was starting, Halliburton was coming off the bench. Brunson had the earlier success in the tournament. Halliburton had the latter success coming off the bench and what he was able to do with that second unit. So I understand it. I get it because you may want more of a point guard with some size over Brunson. So I get it a little bit. But overall, I do like they have the shooting. They have the guys that can attack the basket defensively. When you're playing in that environment, everyone's locked in. So you see Anthony Edwards playing defense where that may be questioned during the regular season in the NBA. Jason Tatum locking things up there as well. And that's why Drew Holiday and now Derek White are there also, because you have these specialized players that do both things and not worry about the offense, but they're more focused on the defensive side and team basketball. I like the construction of the team. I really do. And they have three really good they have three a great big man, two all-stars, all NBA level big men there in Davis and Adebayo, and they're really good. They've done what they've done without Kevin Durant so far. So if and when he comes back after dealing with that hamstring, if he's okay, then we're talking about a different level of what that team looks like with his scoring and his length as well.
Big story talking about these NBA Summer League, the Sixers makeup. That's brought to you by TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Check out the TrueMark Financial difference at truemark.com/PHLY. So I got to ask you, what's the word on the Sixers? Because everybody's talking about them because of PG. So as you're walking around and talking to all the NBA types, what are they saying about the Sixers and Paul George and what Morey's done to build out the roster?
The majority was that they had a really good offseason. Yeah, one of the best off seasons this summer. Daryl Morey did a really good job, especially when it comes to that first apron and the second apron with the apron. All the front office types are worried about the apron and how to build around it. Well, he did it the best this offseason. And we'll see how it goes later on. But for right now, to your point, when speaking about Daryl Morey, the Sixers, and the addition, that they're really good. And we know that it all happens on the floor, and we have to assess that when everything goes down. But for right now, for what they did, everyone was in on it, and including the Paul George part. Yes, he's 34. All the things that we've talked about, all the viewers and the listeners that we've all talked about across PHLY Sports. But when it came down to it, like we always say, the Sixers, though, were in a position where they had to do it. And it makes sense for them, even with the money and the player, the fit. The fit is fine with Maxey and Embiid. And the one thing that people kept talking about was Tyrese Maxey and him and his ascension as a player. And if he takes another leap in year number 5, like we saw from year 3 to year 4, making the All-Star team and being in conversation for All NBA, this makes sense. Now, they're not elevating them past the Boston Celtics, but as much as people were talking about the New York Knicks, once they lost Isaiah Hartenstein, even after bringing back OG Anunoby, the Kel trade, most had elevated them to number 2 in the East. Now it's Philadelphia neck and neck again with New York. Milwaukee, don't forget about them. Orlando, they're up and coming. And then everyone else from Indiana to Cleveland beyond. So the talk for the most part was positive about the Sixers and what they did, including Paul George being in a good spot here in Philadelphia. There were some that had questions, but mostly positive.
Yeah, it was interesting. I tell you, I loved the Caleb Martin signing. I thought that was a good move by Morey. I like how he's kind of built it out, and he gives himself some flexibility for the trade deadline that he can add, whatever piece they kind of feel like they need.
So I do too. One of the questions I asked the guys the other day in one of our last shows was, outside of Paul George, which one was your favorite move of the offseason? I think we collectively agreed that it was Caleb Martin, because getting him at the price that you got him at, the depth, the unselfishness, again, as a player who was a wing, and you can just switch between he, George, and Oubre. That's a really good lineup to have there. Now, the only question we had, and I'll ask you the same thing, is simply about the rebounding and the lack of size at that 4 spot. Is that a problem for you with them not having a traditional, I guess, more in size 4-man to help?
Yeah, because you're basically see Oubre and Martin are kind of a duplicate in a sense when it comes to not being able to board. I like Caleb. I think he'll give you effort. but Joel's going to have to carry that big load. The beauty is you got Drummond. So for the regular season, you get by. Playoffs, it's interesting how that's going to play out. You're going to need Joel just to be a beast on the glass.
Yes, and as you talked about giving the effort with Martin, that has to go across the board. When you're starting a lineup like that, if this is in fact the lineup that they're going to start with those three wings along with Maxey and Embiid, that's about just the simple stuff at that point. Box out, put a body on someone, and gang rebound. Everybody go get a board.
Like your guards are going to have to. Your guards are going to have to contribute. Maxey, PG are going to have to do that. The beauty of what we saw from Maxey last year was he had the moment against the Knicks in the Garden. That was a big deal, I think, because you were saying about the progression to year 5. Having that moment is a big deal.
Without question. And he already believed that he belonged. Something like that, of course, puts him in a good headspace where he most certainly believes that. And I think the ultimate trust comes from the franchise player, who always calls him the franchise player.
Yeah.
And with Joel Embiid likes to turn it back on Tyrese Maxey and the partnership. When I asked about the best move of the offseason, and while Derek went with the Caleb Martin thing, we all agreed on that, but we all went in different directions with the answer. And Kyle had a great point of what the organization did after signing Tyrese Maxey by giving him that presentation with the Maxey Museum, showing how important he is, his worth to this franchise, who he is as a person, and Joel Embiid being there for him for that, right? Joel doesn't pop his head out a lot in the offseason, but he did for Maxey, and that speaks volumes of who he believes he is as a person and then as a player. And to your point, having that all-star year in year number 4, he can only go up. And we don't see him and look at him and think he's going to get any worse. He's going to get better. It's a crowded field in the backcourt space, in the guard space, in the Eastern Conference. He is one of them. We start talking about Brunson, Halliburton, Damian Lillard. Maxey is not too far behind when we start to bring up Donovan Mitchell, obviously, Drew Holiday, even with Boston. Derek White, throw him in there, but Maxey is right there with them. And that's how good he is. So as you lay that out there, he's going to be good, man. He's going to be really good. And he's got a lot of help now when it comes to the Paul George piece, now being alongside of him in that lineup. So Embiid will have a few guys there that he can really count on when he may not be having a great day, or just simply work off them, and he'll have his first 3 quarters and they'll close it out in the 4th.
This portion of the program brought to you by the Bet Park Sportsbook Casino app and Parks Casino, Street Road in Ben Salem. Hey, last thing, brother, I was curious because talking Summer League, McCain has looked I think McCain's looked really well. He's a better distributor than I thought, right? Like, my still question is always going to be how he and Maxey are ever going to play on the floor together, but it doesn't matter. The kid can play. What did you see? What else stood out to you at Summer League?
The passing is much better than we expected. I agree with you on that. But the struggles sometimes with the speed, the lack of speed that he has, as we discussed that around the draft, the shot not falling right now. Not worried about that. Not worried about the shooting.
No,
it's more of,
hey, shoot. Yeah.
It's more about the Summer League portion, the competition he's playing against, and getting by them a little bit better than we've seen. Now, he had a much better game last night. Did not catch up with it yet. We were on the plane, so we missed it, getting back from the airport and all. So I did miss it, but I did see he had a much better night scoring the ball, 21 points, and helped leading them.
Yeah, he shot the ball well last night. Yeah.
But the thing was, and it was more about not the games, what we saw in practice. Since we went to about 2 or 3 practices, I can't remember now, but we went to a couple of practices, and at those practices, we watched him. They go through the practices. We're in for the final 20 minutes of practice, and they run all the guys through their final portion of their drills, everyone. And in the end, while most of them are doing these drills, running them through them, McCain will probably be sitting on the side getting a breather. When the first bus leaves and a good portion of those players get on that first bus, now Rico Hines, Reggie Redding, TJ DeLeo are running him through a series of different shooting drills now. Deeper shots, not at the 3-point line, 2 or 3 feet beyond the 3-point line, because one, defenses after that screen is set, they're going to be able to close out on that line much harder.
Yep.
Versus you being 2 or 3 feet behind the 3-point line. One of the highlights I saw last night was one of those shots that we were standing there watching him practice. He did it in the final game we were there on Monday, a few feet behind the 3-point line. And they would run him ragged, tired, dead tired, and he is gassed. But this is what he has to be prepared for. So we can have our questions. I'm not saying to anybody to take my word for it, and that's just it. What I am saying is the kid is going to work. He has been working. And that was one of the things about him in the report coming out of school and coming into the draft. He is a hard worker. So I did watch that, and I noticed it. He has a really good lower base where if he can, again, get through the fatigue of it all, the lower base and going through his shooting mechanics should help him make that shot when he's fighting through that. And that was one of the things that they were trying to do with him, have him run through these drills. He's dead tired, but you have to get through this and make these shots in these situations in the games when it counts. Not only the opponent, but fighting your own personal battle of that fatigue and making these shots. So with him in that shooting, talking to them, watching him run them through those things, he's got a good starting point. It's up to him to how good he's going to be when he gets there, because he can shoot the basketball. He has the right mindset. Even when he was tired and he would sit down and talk with us, the other part, and I know you love this because you love people. He's a good kid, and he just wanted to smile and talk about it.
Yeah.
He was smiling and talk about it every time. So, yeah, he's going to have his bad games. He's going to have his social media things. He's going to have his smile on his face and move on past that game. We always talk about, forget about that one, go to the next one. And that seems like that's his mindset, that he's going to forget about that one, move on to the next one, and have a much better performance in that next game. And that's what I think a lot of people will like about him more times than not. More times than not.
Yeah, I can say it. I can totally say it. My brother, always great. Welcome home. Killed it out there. The best coverage on the Sixers. Devon Givens, Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck, our all PHLY Sixers squad. You're the best, buddy. We love you.
Thanks, man. Talk to everybody at 2:30 today. Me and Kyle. Derek has the rest of the week off. Yes.
Nice. Good stuff,
Thanks,
baby.
Man.
Devon Givens, I love. He just does such a wonderful job. Now we go to the brain.
Brain. Red, the brain finder.
Good morning, brain. How are you, buddy?
Oh, yeah. Well, I got to tell you, Anthony, I was thinking, listening to them talk about, obviously, McLean. Like, what about if you drafted Alex Sarr? Did you see what he did last night?
Yeah.
Did you happen to see by any chance what he did?
I saw it.
0 of 15?
Yeah.
0 of 15 from the number 2 pick in the draft?
Yeah.
Now that, again, I'm just being honest. That should happen literally 0% of the time. Like, not even like 1 in 1,000.
Like, I mean, that was just an historic bad night because I saw it today. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that would be, oh my God. So I would actually, look, that would be something if I drafted him number 2, I'd be like, wow, all right, like, how long is it going to be before he can contribute? Is this like a Darko Milicic thing? I don't even know. I'm just saying that to me would scare me.
Well, that's the tough thing about the Euros is that, now
100%.
again, you just don't know how they're going to be in that setting with those players unless they're so good. And I think this draft spoke for itself that, this was not a draft where there was a lock 1, 2, or 3.
No, but it's interesting, Anthony, and we'll see. You know who's now the favorite for Rookie of the Year? Have you seen by any chance?
No.
Zach Edey. Zach Edey, he went 9 to Memphis because he's had a couple of good summer league games. They made him the favorite for Rookie of the Year. And it's funny, if you remember 2 years ago, people were saying, can this guy even be in the NBA? Will he even be drafted?
They were talking about him being a second-round pick and go and say
he
would not be able to guard and he would not be able to play at all. I mean, here's the thing.
I'll tell you this.
With his size and his touch, he's at least going to rebound and score for you.
Score. 100%. It's interesting, Anthony. Look, and I'm pretty sure Parks has it up now. I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure they do have odds for Rookie of the Year for the NBA. And look, if you want to take a chance if you feel good about a certain player, this is your chance. This is like picking like the Kentucky Derby winner when there's no big favorite, right? 20 horse field, right? Because there is no one who stands out. There's no like Victor Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren of last year where you knew one of those two was going to win it. This is a situation where if you have a good feeling about anyone, I mean, you really have a chance to get a nice long shot, because I think Edie was like 6 or 7 to 1 I saw, and he was the favorite. So think about that. I mean, if you like anyone, I mean, you're going to get a nice payday on whoever you pick if you know who that guy is going to be. Now, obviously, that's the trick, is finding out who that guy is going to be. But I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think Dalton Knecht will get enough minutes for the Lakers? Because, you know, I know me and you both talked about him. Do you think its minutes will be too limited?
I don't think so. I don't think he gets enough minutes. Yeah. I mean,
that's what a lot of this stuff is.
Rookie of the year, you got to go for a spot where you know that they're going to see real minutes. That's it. I mean, that's where you can eliminate all but 10, 8 to 10 guys.
Let me ask you a question, and just a question, like, what are your thoughts on Shannon of Illinois, who got drafted by the Timberwolves? I thought he, again, wasn't the best shooter, but I thought he was a guy who could come into the NBA and score. That was just my amateur opinion, having watched him in college.
I agree with you.
I thought he was a guy that could,
and he could fill it. Like he was a
he
natural,
could fill it. Yeah.
Like, and he was natural, right? Like I always look at guys that can score. Is it effortless? Certain guys, like you know how it is. 20 points is not the same across the board. There are certain guys that are effortless when they score 20. I thought he was that type of kid.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of like when a ball comes off a guy's bat. I went to in Philadelphia, Anthony. I think it was 1996 where the baseball game was held at the All-Star game. I think it was the last time I was in Philly. It was my buddy took me. I think it was 1996. I have to look that up.
Yeah, I covered it.
But I remember going to like it was either the batting practice or the home run derby, and just the way the ball came off the bat of Albert Bell was different than everyone else. Like it just was.
Yeah.
Probably we know why. He probably had cork in it. He probably had a million things in there, or whatever, to make the ball. But sometimes you watch a golfer, just the ball just comes off his club just a different way.
Ohtani last night,
phenomenal player.
Like
man, he's so freaking good.
When he crushed that ball, he absolutely crushed that ball. The bat, it sounds different. Like it attacked different. VG and I were talking about it earlier.
Can I ask you a question, Anthony? And again, I know I would be shot down immediately for the length of the career, and I'd be proven wrong. But I will say he is the best player of all time. Factoring in what his skill set is. Now, again, does he have the length of a career of a zillion guys, too many to name? Of course not. The Mantles, the Bonds, the Willie Mays, Ted Williams, too many guys to name, a million of Babe Ruth. But I'm just saying his actual, like, the games he plays, his skill set of being a top 5 pitcher.
He stinks in Philly.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, his actual skill set day for day, I've never seen a player that is, I think he's the best hitter. And what would you call him, a top 5 pitcher? I'm just saying he's unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable to watch this guy. I mean, he's.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, and by the way, he steals bases. Like he's a great athlete.
God,
he's lightning fast.
He is the absolute. Again, I will say, and I mean it. Like I think. Look, I think we're watching right now on Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback of all time. I know he has a million things to quote unquote pass Tom Brady.
I agree with you.
In my opinion, he's the best, and I think we're watching the greatest baseball player of all time. And it's interesting. I saw one of the older NBA players talking about something, and I was glad to hear him say it. He's like, listen, he was talking matter of fact. He's like, the players in the 1970s are better than the players in the 1940s. The players in 2000 are better than the players in 1970. And that's not a knock. It's like if you look at the track and field, like all the records of the athletes who were setting records like the 100-yard dash, like Jesse Owens in 1930 when he was running in the Olympics.
Well,
that time doesn't hold up today.
I agree.
It's just the athletes become better and better as.
No, you had guys that were great baseball players, right? Like, which is different than the athlete. Like, so you look at like Pete Rose as a true pure hitter. I mean, my God, like Tony Gwynn, who was pudgy, right? Just didn't strike out. Like you imagine Like the idea that he just saw ball all the time. He was that incredible of a hand-eye.
I got to tell you something. I'm so glad you say Tony Gwynn. I read this yesterday. I should have sent you a text. This is maybe the greatest stat I've ever heard in my life. I'd go that far.
The
He faced Tom Glavine, John Smoltz, Pedro Martinez, and Greg Maddux. Those 4 Hall of Famers, 330 times in his career. How many times do you think he struck out?
1, 2,
3.
Yeah.
Against Maddux, Smoltz.
Yeah.
I mean, he never struck out against Pedro. He was 0 for and 40 at bats, 40 appearances. Never.
Yeah, that's
Smoltz
ridiculous.
never struck him out. John Smoltz never struck out John Smoltz, and 80 appearances never struck out Tony Gwynn. I mean, for everyone watching, I don't think if you understand the amazingness of that is a skill level that I can't put in the words how incredible it is. But it's funny, he talked about, I was reading about it, he talked about he was able to actually see the pitch and he could see, Greg Maddux said he was the only pitcher, only hitter he faced, he could differentiate speeds, right out of the hand. And Tony Gwynn talked about his eyesight. He was 20/10 vision, and he was able to see stuff that others, obviously an incredible skill set. And a great man, by the way. I actually got to know him a little bit. He was one of the nicest human beings in the world.
He was a gem. When I was covering baseball, I got him toward the end, and he was just awesome. Great, just a great guy to have all the time in the world. Would talk to you, nuance, great conversations.
I'll tell you a quick story, Anthony. It's funny. Me, and look, I'm a geek, and I admit that I'm a total geek. And we talked about Anthony growing up. These guys were my heroes when I was in high school. Okay, again a total geek. I admit it, but I own it. But I called up the hotel of these players, whatever, just to say hello or whatever, because I was this impressionable high school kid. And I called Tony Gwynn, and he spoke to me, this 14-year-old high school kid, for no joke, 3.5 hours on the phone.
Yeah,
3.5 hours just talking baseball. And he's like, come down, let me give you an autographed bat. And then every time he came in town, he's like, please call me every time. So I did, and I would speak baseball with this guy. No, true story. I would speak baseball with this guy for hours. Yeah, and I remember when he died, again, I actually remember it. I actually cried, and I was like, this guy was just such a nice human being to actually want to take the time to speak to a young 15, 14-year-old high school kid and give him that time just because he's a nice man. And he just loved the sport, obviously, to actually just be able to just talk with someone who doesn't know, but because he just loves the sport that much. And he just shared his wisdom. And, anyway, I know it's a weird story, but he was just always my favorite. I always will love Tony Gwynn, but it's no one like that today. That just now we've gotten in a world with baseball. It's home runs, is what everyone measures, and then everyone's striking guys out. It's just such a different. We talk about the evolving of all these sports.
Last night, you saw on display
102.
Oh my God! I mean, just a fire throwing flames.
Yeah, well, it was great to see all the Phillies come in back to back to back. We had Strom and Ranger. And Sanchez, they were 3 of the 4 pitchers that came in at that one point at the end of the game, which I thought was nice. Just always seeing the Phillies represented. So that was good.
Last night. I got to tell you,
it was good. Look, obviously Shohei hit that big home run. It kind of reminds Shohei to me. Tell me, Anthony, you agree? Remember when Bo Jackson was such a big star? I feel Shohei is that same way. I don't know if we've had anyone since Bo that was just that presence. It seems like Shohei is just that. He has that cachet, so to speak, with him that just everyone wants to follow him, and I feel like he's just such a magnificent player.
No, and Bryce,
Bryce is phenomenal too, obviously. Yep.
Yeah.
Anthony, I got something for you in golf. I know we talked about it yesterday, real brief. I just want to give you a couple guys I thought were worth it. If that's okay. I know you talked about it, and I started doing a deeper dive. I'll say this: best odds in the world are at Parks. Best odds in the world are at Parks. Look, Scheffler at plus 550, Anthony. I looked at it. His last 10 tournaments, he's won 6, coming second twice. So 10 tournaments, he's won at 6, coming second twice. You're going to give me 5.5 to 1. I have to grab that best odds in the world. I looked at it. Parks is the best. Again, I think that's a decent play. And I'll give you a couple others. Look, Koepka, I texted you yesterday, was 50, now down to 40. Just because of the legacy of Brooks Koepka, to me, those odds are too high for a guy that anytime there's a major with Brooks Koepka, you get that mental killer attitude of I'm gonna be tough. And I always think Koepka can win any major tournament just because of the way he's wired mentally. Here's a little of a long shot for you. Joaquin Niemann's 50-1. You may say, what are you talking about? Well, Anthony, he's played 15 tournaments this year. 8 of the 15 tournaments, he's come in the top 5. He's one of those guys I've always felt every time I've watched Niemann, he shoots a lot of rounds. Will shoot like a 61, a 62. Struggle to get the 4 really good ones together, but I think he wins a major. And I think Joaquin Niemann at 50-1 has legs. And then Hovland, I think, was 30-1. Hasn't been playing as good this year, but I think he's a really talented player, Anthony. Probably maybe the best player who has not won a major. That'd be another guy.
How about Aberg?
Look, his odds are, I think, we're more like 16 or 18-1. Look, he's playing great. He's playing great. I can't knock that pick because of just his how he's playing. He's been terrific. He's come on and has now become one of the best 5 golfers in the world, probably. Certainly don't dislike it, Anthony. Probably just would rather take a little bit of a guy at higher odds unless it's Scheffler for me personally. But he's been playing. Look, I would actually say you could argue he should be as high as the second choice. I'll put it this way. I would rather have him at 16, 18 than taking Rory at 7.
Yeah. No, without a doubt. I love the Open just because of the weather and, and I saw it's going to be, rainy 2 days, winds. That's what makes that fun, seeing the best in the world just struggle. It's fun.
Yeah, no, listen, I agree with you. Look, I don't like in golf. Some people love the birdie fest. I love watching, it gets boring. I don't need to see guys go 26 under. That doesn't excite me. I like seeing the challenge of a really tough thing and watching the best players have to play their best.
Brain, great stuff as always, buddy. Thank you.
Appreciate you. See you guys tomorrow.
Here he is, the Brain, brought to us by the Bet Park Sportsbook and Casino app. And let's talk about the Bet Parks Sportsbook and Casino app. Here we go. So how about a Bet Parks Wednesday? Check out the casino live dealer for all your favorite casino games right on your phone. Right now you play Baccarat, live roulette, live blackjack with a live dealer, plus hundreds of exciting online slots. All right, let me tell you, summer's here, and you're at the beach, you're on a boat, the boardwalk, Poconos, campground, lake, backyard, pool, wherever. You got it. Make your downtime fun time. Bet Parks also the proud official betting operator of the PGA Tour. You heard Brad talking about some of the plays. The Bet Parks app has lots of ways to bet the PGA golf. You bet players, matches, top finishers, you name it. Live bet while you watch, fightings. You can do that. Download the Bet Parks app. Enjoy all the action excitement right now at your fingertips. Odds, bets, slots, games, right in your pocket. Great offer for new users. How about this? You get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. BetParks.com for the details. You got to be in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, Ohio, Michigan. Gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. And look, it's another day of massive heat. So you don't want to cook, right? You want to go to Primo Hoagies. Nice, crisp, chilled hoagie. That sounds like good for dinner. I know I got it. I got the animals, right? My boys, one's at football practice, the other one's at basketball camp. They're going to come home and they're going to want to eat. And that's the beauty of Primo's. Anthony likes the meatball sandwich. Massimo likes the Genoa salami, right? So, and we get all the sides and the cookies for dessert. So whatever differentiating tastes you may have in your house, you got to cover with Primo's. Just delicious. It's that incredible Thuman meats and cheeses piled high on that fresh seeded roll, baked fresh in-store every couple hours. Go to PrimoHoagies.com. There's over 90 locations across the Delaware Valley. You'll say what I would say. It's not just a hoagie. It's a Primo. All right. We've reached the 10 o'clock hour on the program, and we're brought to you by TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Check out the credit union difference at TrueMark.com/PHLY. I am so thrilled. My dear friend, he's my brother, joins us. We were talking about it. Everybody couldn't wait to talk to the one, the only, Mike Miss.
What's up? What are you doing? Look at this beautiful studio you got here for me.
Look at this, buddy.
Yes.
We have done this once or twice in our lives.
We have. We did it for several years together, and we always had a really good show together. And so I'm here as your guest.
Well,
I'm here as your guest. Wherever you want to go with this show.
Well, we're going to go storytelling, the state of 4 for 4, the state of Mikey Miss. You look sensational, by the way.
Man. I brought my dog in here for you.
I know. I love her.
Yeah, she was.
I used to look forward to her. When you would bring her in, look, she came right over.
Yeah,
when you used to bring her into the studio at work, and everybody loved her. It was the best. I think
you're my comfort dog.
She's a beautiful dog, and I know and she's good athlete too. You throw the ball.
She really is. You see her catch a frisbee now.
Oh, really?
Oh, she goes airborne.
Get out! Oh, that's fantastic.
She goes.
How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good.
What's going on? Like, you look great. You're playing baseball, right? You're making wine. You're doing exactly what I expected.
In fact, I have 4 broken ribs from. I still play in hardball leagues, as you know, because I'm an idiot, and I've been.
It's because we love it.
I got drilled the hardest thrower in the league. Now this is an age group league; these are older guys, but this guy can really throw. Bases are loaded. I'm digging in. First pitch, bang, and the side of the ribs. I took my breath away. Right. So for the next couple of days, I'm trying to sneeze or burp, and it's just dry. This seared pain's going
ribs,
on.
Man.
So I go to our mutual pal, Dr. Mike.
Dr. Mike Strigliano. Michael.
He puts me through 100 tests. He gets the glove with the finger.
Yeah.
You got to do like the whole exam thing.
Yeah, he always has to do that.
Exactly. Right away, I shudder. He gets the glove. Yeah. And so he sent me down for
I'm
X-rays.
coming for you now, Michael.
The X-rays showed the 8, 9, 10, 11 ribs fractured.
Oh, my God.
So I've been on the DL for a little while. Or the IL, as they call it.
Well, I love it because you're also making wine at the winery. You have.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, the winery is now, we are actually, it's really a good time because we're pairing now, we're merging with, do you know Mike Costanzo?
Yeah, why do I know?
Mike
They could play baseball with Phillies.
Was a local kid who got drafted by the Phillies.
Yeah.
And was actually in the trade that brought Brad Lidge here.
Yes.
He started a wine company called Briganti, and he serves the wine at Citizens Bank Park. He's got distribution in 8 states, so we're now going to merge with him. So Natali Vineyards, which is what it was called, is now going to be called Briganti by the Bay.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we're having fun. I'm having fun with the winery. In fact, last autumn, I actually was in the cutting grapes harvest.
Get out.
Yeah, I was cutting the Chardonnay harvest.
Wow.
And boom, and they go in the bucket. Well, I didn't realize how sharp the clippers were.
Yeah.
So I got like 7 finger cuts. These guys are so experienced. They're not carrying Band-Aids.
Oh no. Meanwhile, you're bleeding out.
Band-Aid?
Yeah.
I had to run inside, get a Band-Aid. By the time I came back, I clipped another. I wasn't experienced.
Did you enjoy that whole process of
I love it.
the chemistry of it all?
I love walking through the vines and that when at the harvest time you smell the grapes and then our vintner is a really good guy. He's a Southern guy, so and he's really meticulous about his wine. It's interesting is the people in Jersey like a sweet wine.
Okay.
They'll like we make wine at a cherry wine, make a cranberry wine.
Oh wow.
They like that kind of stuff. He doesn't like to make it because he's
purist.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you like a dry wine. You don't want more of a dry wine.
He turns his nose up. He just produced a Nebbiolo.
Oh,
which is
I love it. That's a Pugliese.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the Nebbiolo grape I love that grape.
Yeah, because
I love in Puglia they use the Nebbiolo.
There's a lot of local vineyards. I believe that the wine we produce is, and I've tasted a lot of local vineyards. A lot of people turn their nose off it. This guy makes really good wine, so we're really proud of the wine that comes out.
You know something. The older I get, the more I like to enjoy my wine. Good, Pop.
It's good for you.
Doing a Godfather line because nobody else would know it except us. And you're also working on a true crime podcast.
I am. I'm really excited
which is
about
awesome. This is a great story.
Yeah, I have my own podcast going right now, and I've had really, it's a competing company. So
we're not competing.
Yeah, we're all right. Bet Rivers. I do a podcast with Bet Rivers. They came in right in when the radio career stopped. They came right in, so I'm having a lot of fun, and I really appreciate those guys and their support. And I have this idea. There's been, and I've told you about this story before. When I was 7 years old, a 9-year-old girl was murdered and raped in a church around the corner from my house. Now, the reason why this is so impactful for me is that my cousin was the police chief of Bristol Borough. Now we're talking about.
Yeah.
The little girl's name was Carol Ann Doherty. The police chief, when the crime scene was discovered, immediately called my mother and said, "Get the kids in the house." I was playing football with my brother in the yard. We're throwing a football around, and my mother comes running out, and she gets us in the house. And I'm 7. I didn't know what happened.
Sure,
it's like traumatic. And then I think my brother was an older. I think they told him, and then he told me and tried to explain what had just happened. So it's been a case that has it haunted the whole town.
Yeah,
because it became a cold case. They never found the murder.
I mean, this child, and you live in this barrel, this tight-knit group.
Exactly.
Back in the day when. And that's got to frighten a town.
And the saddest part of the story was she was on her bicycle going to return a book at the library down the street.
Oh, man.
And she went to St. Mark's School, which is the school attached to the church. The nuns would teach the kids if you go by a church, it would be a good idea to go in and say a prayer. So she parked her bike outside, went and say a prayer, and that's where it happened. And the father, in tracking her steps, found her in the church. So it's a tragic story that has never been solved, to the frustration of my relative, who was the police chief. And of course, in 1962, DNA didn't exist.
Right.
Well, they had hair samples they could compare, but there was nothing conclusive that they actually could arrest the suspect for. So I'm doing all this research now with all this technological DNA advancements. There's a way to identify the killer. And all you have to do is match whatever DNA you have left in this case, you match it genealogically to a relative of the suspects.
Okay, right.
And then you can find who the killer is.
So now with all the 23andMe and able to do that, that's interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I have done the research to the point where I know it's one of 2 suspects.
Wow. You cracked the case.
Yes. And one of the suspects.
That's amazing.
One of the suspects was the priest who was at the church.
God.
And so, in 1962, you're talking about the Catholic Church being very strong.
Very
powerful.
Yeah.
So,
and these they were above reproach.
Exactly.
The
now,
clergy.
The 2 major suspects, all they had to go on was a lie detector test. In 1962, was a lie detector test conclusive that they both passed the lie detector test. So there were 4 suspects, 2 were ruled out. 2 remain, and my whole podcast is to present the whole story and who these suspects are and where they went to and all this kind of thing.
It's a great story. I mean, it's a horrible story, but how you can tell it will be really, really interesting, because the time itself, the period becomes a character in it, as does the town itself, right? Like you'll get into
absolutely
what the town's makeup was and what the mood was at that point in time in history.
Exactly. It was the first murder ever in the town's history. There's only been 2 murders in the history of the town, and that was the first one. But this, because it was a 9-year-old girl, was just so heartbreaking for everybody in the town. It really, the fact that they couldn't find the killer just paralyzed the town.
Yeah.
That there was a killer somewhere amongst them.
Yeah. Oh, that's awful. That's awful. Very interesting. I can't wait to see.
See, that's the thing that my brain now, my brain is still absorbed with sports. But there are other things that I've told you all these little stories that I've had that I've grown up with that I've always wanted to do something on. And so with this free time, I figured this was really be a time.
Well, it's great because you can now get to exercise that part of you. I mean, we all love sports, and that's what drew us to what we do. But, we all exercise. I still write projects. I make Mike read, my work. And
you have a project a week.
Yeah.
You do. Your brain, I swear to God, your brain is occupied every second of the day. You're the opposite of me. Really, yeah. I have all this free time. I go, what do I do now? I go to the grocery store and buy 2 tasty cakes for $3. You got screenplay today. You know.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff going on.
This thing, your kids, they're gonna be superstar athletes. You're on the sidelines coaching them. It's like, where do you have the time for all this?
I don't have a second. I mean, well, it's just in that stage of life when my boys are 11 and 14, so you're constantly doing that, and then the creativity of what we do and kind of our makeup, it forces you to go after it. It's amazing. It's a lot of fun. I want to get into this a little bit because we have had so many great memories. The fact that we're sitting here today in this new setup, right? It's a new technology. It's a new network. It's PHLY. We're very proud of what we built here at PHLY. We've not been in existence for not a year yet. All right, we're closing on a year in September, and we've already made dramatic inroads. It's so much fun, and to sit in here with you is a gift. Because I'm being serious. I mean, I think back to when I first sat with you down the street, because we're close to 10th and Spring Garden. Mm-hmm. If you go 5 blocks over and a block down, that was the old WIP.
Yeah, the North 5th Street building.
And we're on North 10th Street.
Yeah.
And I think about that.
Circle.
Right? And I think about, here we are back when I first got in there and I like you, I was like, wow, man, this is like big time. It's Philadelphia. It's WIP. You got to explain to people what WIP wielded at that time.
Well, we didn't know what it was going to wield. That's the whole thing. Like, we all just took a shot. And I try to explain this, and kids ask me, well, can you give me instructions on how you got to where you go? Flip a coin, because it just kind of happened magically. I had no idea that I was going to be in sports talk radio at all. I was a journalist at the Inquirer like you were, and I didn't know what was next for me. We had an editor there, a sports editor, who kind of all turned us off to the whole process of being a journalist. And so we were always on edge. And when Sports Talk Radio started, they poached us. They said, okay, these guys know what they're talking about, and they all have personalities. So let's see what happens. And I did some part-time stuff on weekends. Angelo Cataldi was the first guy to jump. And Angelo was the most serious journalist that I could ever imagine at the Inquirer. He was deadly serious. He doesn't
Pulitzer Prize winning serious.
And he covered the Eagles like he was covering
the White House,
Vietnam.
Yeah,
and everything was so intense and the whole bit. And I go, what? Wow, if he's disgruntled here, and he thinks Sports Talk Radio is an outlet for better things, then we should all pay attention. So he went. He was the first full-time guy, and I had done a weekend show with Stan Hochman, the great Stan Hochman.
Yeah,
we call ourselves the Weekend Warriors. And Stan was fun, but I didn't think it was going to turn into a full-time job. And then what happened was, I think Eskin. Well, there's a name that I probably shouldn't even mention today. He left to do full-time TV. So they had an evening drive slot open. All of a sudden, I get a call. We'd like you to do evening drive. And we're going to pair you with Steve Fredericks. And it was a shock to my system. It's like,
sure.
Really, I'm saying, okay, I might leave a newspaper. Meanwhile, I had a law degree.
Yes.
So I'm going, okay, where do I go? The worst that could possibly, let me try it. They offered me a 1-year contract at WIP with Steve Fredericks. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was the wise guy punk. He was the wise old veteran. And somehow we blended and had a good balance. And the show turned into a successful show. And
it was a great show.
It started the whole
S&M,
thing.
I mean, it was one of those, like, you two worked so well off each other. Steve-O got such a kick out of you. Like, he loved you.
Here's the thing about Steve. He was a very successful guy in the business. But he realized early on that this show would be better off with him as a straight man. So he would just kind of like throw me little things and let me be a wise ass. And I always appreciate that because that's how the show developed that way. And then he was the smartest guy that I've ever come across. He knew everything about everything. And so I absorbed his knowledge, and he would tell me stories about his life. Like, he had an
amazing life,
crazy life.
Wow, wild.
And, you know, he made no bones about the fact that he was in rehab, and he had been sober when he did show with me. He had been sober for like 15 years or 20 years or whatever it was. But he told me those old stories that when he was totally out of it.
In Boston.
And I go, well, he has a cautionary tale for you because this business can do that. That you're on the road, you're alone, So I learned a lot from the guy. I miss him terribly.
Yeah, he was a beautiful man. It was great, but you had a knack for it. You knew how to stimulate conversation. Like, we would go like to bars with my buddies, and you would sit there and you would play game show host. You go, all right, let's go. Name for me the top 20 white Sixers. Like you would do,
because I didn't know who they were, and I wanted you to fill me in.
No, but you would do, like, you were an amazing.
So it got us thinking. Like, that was the whole point of that exercise. Tim McCormick,
Danny Graves
would come out of the blue. Tom Chambers,
But you had such a knack, because the thing that made you a great sports talk host was you were engaging. You forced the audience to think. You went places that you pushed them to go. So you always had a very strong opinion, and you backed it up with layers, right? Like a true attorney would, and making a case. And you were also had that fun side. So you could go serious, or then you could go fun and enjoy and just go, hey, let's go college athletes, and just kind of wander through great names and enjoy that piece of it.
Well, first of all, I grew up in a town that had per capita the biggest ball breakers in America. So to survive, you had to be a smart ass.
Yeah.
You had to outdo a guy.
Yeah.
So you kind of had that kind of background. But the lawyer background combined with the newspaper background, you're getting to one area. You're trying to get to the truth, and to do that, you have to probe and you have to ask questions. So today it's different because we came through a journalistic background. We knew what kind of questions they asked. We knew what information was important to relay to people, and that's what you do as a journalist. Like, you're trying to get to that. So that's how you hone your skills, and that to me, it was the essence of how I can have a feedback with somebody. And it's like, okay, all right, you think this, but what about this? And what I try to do is not convince them that my opinion is right, even though I knew it was.
Sure. That's you, baby.
You know, my idea was to get them to think about the other side. And so like I heard this nonsense recently where like sports talk hosts today, they go,
the hot take.
The hot take, but it's insulting to the listener. Like, the listener here is smart.
Right.
When you put a hot take out, like, when Trey Turner comes back, they should move him to right field.
Right.
And have Sosa be an everyday shortstop is idiotic.
Right.
And that is not even based in any a fact. They're not based in any information or study or instinct.
Yes.
So. Hot takes are one thing when you want to get people to talk about it, but it's got to make sense.
They need to be well thought out, and there needs to be a prudent argument. And I like, I'm with you. It can't be phony. See, the listener, and you talked about it, like Philadelphia being an old town, being a true sports town, is a very cerebral sports town. They understand. They're sophisticated. And so when you're just throwing stuff out there, that's not going to fly.
No, it's not. And the new generation thinks it will fly because everything is now based on a hot take, which I don't mind. Hot takes generate conversation. But it's like, don't insult your listener by I've heard certain sports talkers criticize Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper's the last guy you should be criticizing. Seriously. I mean, those are the guys you go, that's a gift here. That's a gift. Guys like Trey Turner and Bryce Harper, you don't have to worry about anything about. Just
I was funny. I have him down to talk to you about because there has been no better ambassador in the history of my life than Bryce Harper. The only one I could come to, and I go, well, Julius Erving was this erudite kind of athlete who was, well respected in the NBA and had that thing about him. Bryce is a better communicator. Bryce is a true star who's an amazing ambassador, who loves Philadelphia. Even Doc didn't speak about Philadelphia the way he does. And, it drives me nuts when people say, well, he's pandering. He's not pandering. That, to me, is genuine. You could see it. He loves it here.
Yeah, and like what you said, he's a true star. That's where I go, okay. Like if he doesn't run out the ball because he thought it's gone, so what? That guy plays his ass off
exactly
99.9% of the time. And that one time where he thought he hit a home run, maybe he didn't run hard enough for your pleasure.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous
to look at.
Yeah, this idea, this notion that, oh my God, you have to hold him accountable. For what? He holds himself accountable. He's just a great, great player. So just leave it be. Enjoy it.
Exactly. And here's the other thing. Rob Thompson gets idiots like to poke at him too. And I go, okay, he's structured in what he does, but he's the perfect manager for what that team is.
Yes.
He's got his certain
gets out of the way.
And he was in a way like Charlie Manuel.
Yes.
You believe in guys and you let him play.
Yeah.
And he, well, how come he doesn't change the lineup? Because he knows that a major league player comes in the clubhouse and sees he's dropped in a lineup. He gets a red ass about that.
Yes. Yes.
And you want to avoid a player getting a red ass because you have a red ass. You're thinking about it, and you're not going to be your best. And that's what he does better than anybody.
That's spot on. All right, we'll come back more with Mikey Miss in just a moment. But I do want to tell you about True Fan Travel, your passport to the world of sports. Over 8,000 plus fans have traveled over 145 plus trips. Used to be Philly sports trips. My man Vince Rizzuto, what he's done with True Fan Travel is just amazing. He's got Europe conquered. All right. You want to go see the Birds play in Brazil. He's got a trip that's going to be amazing. You'll feel safe. You'll stay, 4 and 5 star places. It's just classy. It's comfortable. It's fun. You get to travel with your brethren. You get to meet friends. I mean, I still have people tell me about London and what his Phillies trip to London was like. Oh, my God. I've seen it all. I've done many trips with him. You look at the Bird schedule. You got to go to truefantravel.com, all right? Check out the Bird schedule and just pick a destination. You want to go to Tampa. You want to go to New Orleans. You'll get, celebrities with you, former players for Q&As, all kinds of fun things, boat trips. He's got it all. Great food and drink, tailgates, anything you want. You want to talk about making a memory, you got to make a memory with True Fan Travel. It's your travel partner for professional sporting events around the world. Visit truefantravel.com to learn more and find your next adventure. All right. Don't forget PHLY. We got all of our events, allphly.com. Check it out. We got some great stories up there. It's rank week. I got to run this by Mikey Miss too, because we've got the top 25 most memorable games in Philadelphia history. All right. And we're ranking them. Today is, we are 10 through 15 today. All right. We'll announce the top 10. Top 5 through 10 will be tomorrow. And on the show Friday, we'll announce the top 5 most memorable games. It's rank week across all City. All right, Mike. So let's get back to this and VG, jump in anytime you want, but the
violation's great here. It's celebrity.
It's my man, right?
Dude, I'm just in awe, man. This is like royalty, radio royalty here.
Yeah. How about it?
Anyway, the best.
Later, do people know how you got into this business? You don't tell that story very often. The transition that you made.
Well, you were instrumental in it. You were instrumental in it.
We sat right down. It was a Bennigan's.
Yes, it was.
Bennigan's.
Bennigan's.
It was a
City Line Avenue?
Bennigan's. Do I? It was
City
City
Line-
Line Avenue, Bennigan's. I
So-
get called to a summit meeting by you.
Yes. So I get offered the job. I was coming from New York. I get the job at the Inquirer. I went for an interview at the New York Times, and I wanted to be a foreign correspondent. And so they said, you got to get cleansed from the Post, because the Post was, not a respected newspaper in that sense. So I go to get the job. The Inquirer, I'm home. I'm loving it. It's great. The whole thing. I do a fill-in show like Mikey Miss. I did a fill-in show with the great Ray Didinger, right? And so we're hanging out, doing the whole thing. And they offered me, much like they offered Mike, the drive time, they offered me middays with Glenn. And so I don't know what to do. I loved to write. Like, to this day, I still love writing. And I was completely torn. Mike is an incredible orator, right? He's got an amazing broadcast way. I didn't. My first call when I was on the air, a guy calls up and says, "You sound like you should be cutting pepperoni on 9th Street." All right? And I'm like a serious writer. Blah, blah. You're like, yeah, all right, whatever. And so I asked Mike. I was really nervous about it. So I Mike, you got to meet me. And I just poured my soul to Mike to help me make the decision.
Yeah, and you were a great writer, and I said you should never give that up.
Yeah.
But here's what you should use radio as a vehicle for, because you're going to make a little more money. You're going to probably have a family, so you can be good at that and never abandon writing. It was like the best of both worlds for you, I thought.
Oh, it was amazing advice. I mean, it was so I look back on it, and it was the perfect advice. And you've also foresaw it too. Like, you foresaw the business and the electronic world.
You're a sweetly naive guy.
Yes.
And the first time,
still am.
Yeah, you are. And the first time I met you, you were trying to break into this business as a journalist. I don't even know who you were working for at the time, right? What was the
well, at that point, I was a stringer. I was at Temple.
You were a stringer at Temple.
Yeah.
And you were working. And who were you working? We were covering the NCAA tournament.
I was working for the Woonsocket News of Rhode Island.
Oh, big gig.
Yes.
Yeah, so
$25.
So it's the NCAA regional at the Meadowlands Arena, and he would come up to me sheepishly. We used to work off these little Radio Shack computers that had a screen like this big.
It would hold 3 stories.
Right. That was like the first technology.
Yeah, it was the Tandy.
And you had to plug it into a phone somehow, or
Couplers.
get a coupler and put the phone thing on the couplers. And so Anthony goes all the way up to cover it with the apparatus, which he does not know how to use.
No idea. I think I bought it that day.
It's one thing, you're covering the thing that he didn't think of, like, okay, once I cover the story, how do I transmit the story?
Yes. No idea.
So,
You had to buy your own?
What's that?
You had to buy your own?
Yes.
No. You did?
No, I bought my own.
Oh, you bought your own.
Because, remember, because I wasn't working for I was stringing. So I was at Temple, and I was trying to hustle and do jobs
And
to
you
kind of get
probably
noticed.
said, yeah, I can cover that.
Oh, yeah.
See, that's the first step. You don't tell them,
No.
I'll cover it, but I don't know how to
The
use
answer is always yes.
Right.
Like, when you're trying to do something, you always say yes and figure it out later.
it. Because if you say, I don't know how to use the Radio Shack, they go, okay, well, sorry.
Right.
We go to the next guy. So you took it a step at a time. And you figured you'll eventually get to learn how to send it.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people wouldn't do that on deadline.
Right.
But that's
Correct.
Like, they would do it hours before.
Correct.
You did it literally on
Well,
deadline.
I got the job that day, I think, and I literally went out, bought the piece at Radio Shack.
Wow. See, now that's enterprise.
And then went and drove up and covered the game. And I didn't know. And I see Mike, and I'm like, oh, man, that's MG Missanelli. Like, I loved Mike. Like we growing up in Philadelphia, the sports section, that was everything. So me and my cousin Joey, we would sit back and we would read cover to cover the Daily News and the Inquirer, right? And the Sunday paper, I'll never forget, Sunday mornings, we would be sharing the paper together. Like, you want the baseball, I'll take the college, the football, whatever. And that's how we would do it. So Mike was royalty, like college basketball, and it was so big, college basketball. And so here's Mike And I'm like, oh my God, here's Mike Missanelli. So I figured he was a paisan. I go introduce myself, and I thought he would help me, and he did, and I was right.
Oh, hooked you right up. You got the wound socket people, and we're able to admire your brilliance for that Dave story.
But it's amazing. We went from that to like instantaneous. Like you think about the change in the business for both good and bad.
Yeah.
Where like, what do you look like when you see it today? The one thing I have to say I miss, and I'm curious about you, is I still love to read, and that's just what we're trying to do here at PHLY, and we have really good journalists, so we're still trying to keep that alive. I still think there's a place for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I read as much as I can, and I know people get farmed out of this business so quickly anymore. The printed word, like it's not as important. But yeah, I read as much as I can, the game stories, the way it's presented, the feature stories. There's still a lot of good journalism out there.
But getting back to WIP, and that at that point, you guys were rock stars. All right? I mean, rock stars. Like you would go to the Ribbit or whatever, those
Ribbit on Walnut Street.
The remotes, like he would do all these remotes. And they were legit pack a place. Like for happy hour, like he would pack a place, man. He was a rock star in Philadelphia.
The first remote was a place called Gyro's in Northeast Philly.
Oh, yeah.
You know Gyro's is still there?
I don't think so.
Well, one of the first remotes that we had, they used to, the show would be broadcast live. Now, everybody in the business knows there's a dump button, a 10-second delay. So if anybody curses, you can get it out. It doesn't go on the air. But live, it goes all over the place. So a guy called up once, and he couldn't have been more profane. And people, I'm going, oh my God, because I don't have a dump button. They're dumping it back in the studio, but Steve and I are doing the show, and it's going through dinner time, through the restaurant. People are dropping their forks. Stunning. That was the first remote. Second remote was Philly Rock.
Yes. Oh, man. Philly Rock.
On Delaware Avenue.
Yes, where the movie theater
is.
Yeah. And when Mike and Philly Rock, like that was a big deal, man. There were lots of people. I remember going to see you. Like it was something that was sports radio set the tone. Like you guys, it was amazing. You guys set the tone of the town, the mood of the town. You pissed off the Eagles or whatever's team, or you celebrated it. It really was the pulse of the city.
Yeah. Let me tell you, that's where Steve would tell his best stories, by the way. I always felt bad about him being in a bar. But he actually confronted that really well. He said, I love being in bars because I like to look at people that I see in me when I was that way.
Right.
So it was almost a guard against him never going that way, because a lot of guys would come up to you during the break. They'd have a couple of beers and blah, blah, blah. And so that was a killer. But he would tell me, he told me a story once. Imagine this: this is a commercial, and 4 minutes, and I'm reading a story about Fred Grandy, who was gopher on the Love Boat. If you remember that old show.
Yeah, Love Boat. Sure.
All right. So Fred Grandy was running for senator in Iowa. He had become a politician. And I go, look at this. Gopher is running for Senate. And he goes, yeah, I know. I go, huh? He goes, yeah, we used to party together in Boston. I go, what? He goes, yeah, we were all members of an acting troupe up there in Boston, because Steve had worked many years in Boston. And he said, a friend of mine would send me a really good acid from Haight-Ashbury. Now this story has another layer.
Haight-Ashbury.
We go from partying with Fred Grandy to acid from Haight-Ashbury, right?
Oh my
But now
God.
there's another layer too. I go, what do you? He goes, yeah, we used to go troll around the Boston Harbor and drop acid. He said by the end of the day, Grandy was by the propeller with his face like this. And it's during a commercial now, mind you. And I go, really? He goes, yeah, that's when I was dating Jane Curtin.
I remember that. Oh my God, yes.
I go, wait. This is 4 layers he's giving me. 4 layers of a story.
Fred Grady, Acid, and Jane Curtin.
Exactly. I go, Jane Curtin from Saturday Night Live because, we went out for a long time. Like, oh, God, Steve. And then, like, another day it would be like, he would tell these stories proudly because he was out of it.
Right.
Like, he could look back at it. And he said, I was at a party once in Boston, and I lost 2 days. I go, what do you mean? Because I blacked out for 2 days. I remember being at a party in Boston. The next thing I remember, I was the woman on a beach in Puerto Rico that I didn't know. Dude, you're killing me. Like, I would love to tell these stories on the air. No, he was the best.
Well, the beauty, you really started the real personal stuff. Like, nobody, when it first came on the scene, sports radio was very sportsy, right? Like, you talk about this, and you kind of brought people into it. You personalized it. You could make a trip to the supermarket entertaining. Like, you picking out kumquats.
You know why? Because people do that all the time, and they can relate to that.
Yeah.
And more people, I'm going to tell you the truth. Of all the years I've done sports on radio, more people remember those stories than they remember whatever I said about sports.
Yep.
Like, people come up to me, like, I don't know, 15 years ago, I told a story about Honeycrisp apples.
Yeah.
People still come up to me, I remember that Honeycrisp thing you talked about. It's unbelievable. But those are the things that stick with people.
I can hear it in my mind's eye. I hear you talking about a plum.
It's more the everyday life things that people enjoy. And you know what? That was an influence from Tom Bigby, who was the program director. He said, this is now life talk.
Yeah.
This is sports talk, but it's life talk. He broke us all down. He said, you guys have come here, you're no longer journalists. And we went, wow, we're going to use our expertise, and we're going to use our interviewing prowess. And he goes, no, you can do that, but you need to entertain people. This is what it's all about. So if you have a story that happened to you in real life, it's entertaining, those listeners are going to share in that, and they're going to be glued to it.
And it's brilliant because, VG, you listened to your whole life. I mean, and you listened to Mike, and Mike was a natural storyteller. So he would come in and he would just talk about, it was funny. It was almost like observational stand-up.
Yeah.
Like you would do it and you talk about, I saw this woman and, the way she, got out of her car, like you would come up with stuff and I'd be like, and then you'd find yourself going, all right, and waiting in the car before you got out of the car so he could finish the story, which was just utterly brilliant.
Really relatable. Everyone has little experiences like that, and he captured it and tells you about it. Everyone, they can live vicariously through his story.
Yeah, and I think you're right about the relatability. Sports is the engine, right? So sports is the vehicle
the hub.
that gets us to congregate, right? And we love that piece of it. And then from there, you spider out, and I think
exactly, and you always find your way back to that. Like you don't abandon that thing. A lot of sports talk hosts forget about that concept. You have to have something that you really engage with, sports-wise, punching. And then, you come back from grocery. Go, I was reading this thing the other day about, and then you spin it back to the main hub topic.
Yep.
But you'll also then create another conversational piece where people will want to talk about that spinoff.
Well, that was the beauty of the when we would do phone calls. Like, we would always have our main sports topic, all right, AI or the lightning rods that would always you talk about. But that wasn't enough because it got monotonous after a while. Like, how many opinions? It's like, pro AI, anti AI. Like, because at that point there was a lot of anti AI, which was ridiculous. But you can only have so much about that. How many wins for the Eagles, right? Like, all right, 11, 12, 13. After a while, you go, all right, well, that's, so what's the side topic? And they would give the sports piece, and then they couldn't wait to tell you about their encounter with a ghost or whatever, or whatever it was.
Exactly. But we also had athletes that were compelling enough to carry the day. Like, in my lifetime, the first one was Randall.
Yeah.
And then Lindros came along.
Yes.
And then AI.
And
then McNabb.
Yes.
You could talk about forever.
And Andy.
Yeah. And so we were blessed with people like that would always push a needle on one side or the other.
Yeah, the worst, I'll never forget, like, oh my God, the worst was in the middle teens when we were so dry in Philadelphia. We had nothing. The teams were all terrible, and there was nobody to talk about.
Well, that's where you put your negative hat on.
Yeah, I know.
you start getting it. I always looked at it like I haven't made a lot of friends in the business, in the sporting world, because I don't care. I like. To me, I work for the people that are listening. So if I'm going to try to not say something because I'm going to offend the general manager in town, I can't. I have to present the best side with the people. And I always saw myself as an advocate for the people against the teams that they're not doing right by their fans. There's been a lot of shady stuff that's going on here where the fans have been cheated out because the management weren't competent enough or didn't give their best effort. So I always thought I had to point that out. And I made a lot of enemies that way.
Yeah. No one could rile up Flyers fans like you. And the Stepfords and the hockey geese.
Oh, my God.
I think back at the time, I go...
And real quick, let me interrupt. But he was a huge Flyers fan.
Yes.
Like, people don't realize that he covered hockey. He loved hockey. Played it like, they would always, you don't know anything you talk about. Meanwhile, he knew a ton about hockey.
I covered the Flyers for like 6 years. I covered that team that was 35-game unbeaten streak that year. What's interesting about that is Pat Quinn was the coach.
Yes.
And then he got fired because they all get fired.
The Bob McCammon?
Yeah, McCammon came in. I covered McCammon. But Pat Quinn, years later, became my law school classmate.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he got fired with several years left of his contract. I guess he used that money on his contract to go to law school, Widener Law.
Wow.
And I was a night student. He was a day student. And he had every female loving him. Like, he would walk around, this handsome ex-hockey guy. He smoked a pipe.
Oh, my God.
With cherry wood tobacco. And he smoked a pipe. He could smoke in the hallways. And, he was my law school class.
I didn't know that. That's
he used
fantastic.
those years to go to law school.
Pat Quinn, that's wild. All right, I got to get this because we're going to need to do a part 2. There's so many stories we haven't broached, so we're going to have to do another visit. But while I got you, and I think it's important to bring it back to the center, is I need your opinion. Lots has happened, all right, with all these 4 teams.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Sixers, all right? And Paul George, what do you think? Morey had the blank slate, and here it is.
Morey is dictated by the Embiid window. I mean, it's simple.
Right.
He can't build a team any other way but to surround that guy. And he's a believer in 3 stars. I don't know if that works anymore, especially older stars. But I know that he has no other choice to do it. So he's put together a roster of all these guys. Now, he's got a lot of older role players as well. And the only thing with the Sixers, I think they're going to be good. How many games will he play? If he doesn't play a lot of games, where does that put him in the seed? Because if you look at history, only the top 3 seeds that go into the playoffs are going to win something. So the climb up, it doesn't serve them well. Are they better than Boston right now? No. I think they're better than the Knicks. And I think I would put the Knicks 3rd. So I think they've got a fighting chance. Now, they're small. The starting line don't really have a 4.
Right.
So Caleb Martin's going to be a 4 for them. We'll see how that
now,
works.
You do have Drummond off the bench.
Yeah.
For regular season, right, I think you can get by. Now, it'll be interesting to see because we saw them get destroyed on the glass in the playoffs.
Yeah.
By the you're now it'll have trade deadline flexibility if you needs to add somebody like that. Or, and Joel's going to have to, this is where Embiid's going to have to sweep the glass.
Yeah. But Paul George is going to be excited. He's going to bring attention. The fans are going to love it. So it's a matter of whether they're going to all play enough games to get a top seed, I think.
Oh, you got to think, right? You got Indiana, you got Orlando, right?
Cleveland.
Yeah. I mean,
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, Doc's coach. But I got to believe they're a top 3 seed or top 4 seed. I mean, as long as you're in the top 4.
I hope so. But if George plays 40 games, are they?
I mean, as long as Embiid, listen, the one good thing is, and this is unquestionable, that Maxey can carry it, and especially in the regular season. We saw, and he had his moment, right? One of the things, it was disappointing losing to the Knicks, but for Maxey to go out and have that game at the Garden where it was him, I think that just makes his trajectory that much better. I think that he's now solidified himself as a true super, as Jimmy Lanham would say.
Yeah. No, I get it. He's. I hope he stays healthy because he's not. It depends. Again, I look at the seed. And, I hope he doesn't get hurt. I hope he can play enough games to carry them.
Yeah, yeah. Do you like their? One of the things I thought they were going to trade their draft picks for more players. So it was interesting to see the kid.
Do I like McCain?
Yeah.
I don't think he's ready. I'm watching him in the summer league games.
That was my issue with him. Like, I think the kid can play in the league, but I didn't get him and Maxey because they're too small.
2'6" guards playing together. He's not a good enough NBA shooter just yet. I mean, he was a good college 3-point shooter. He looks like he can, but he's not dynamic enough right now to be.
And that was it, because I think he can grow into it.
Yeah.
Like, I like the pick if it's not this moment.
Hurt you.
Right.
I don't know if he's going to be a star.
Right.
McCain.
And the only issue was, and you're right. You prefaced the whole thing by saying it. The window's now.
It has to be now. But Morty's like anyway. He's a 3-star hunter. It's weird about him because he's analytical, but he's the 3-star hunter.
And the Celtics showed you that the 2-star model
wins if you have great role players.
Yeah, I mean, look what White does for you, right? You look at Drew Holiday. Like, Drew Holiday, all he does is win. Drew Holiday.
Dribble, drive, kick out. They're always going to get a 3-point shooter involved, and everyone can shoot it.
Yeah.
That's how you win now.
All right. Last night we saw the Phillies All-Star game. I mean, it was really awesome. Like, as someone that I know how much you love baseball, and to see all those Phillies in one place they were the host of the whole game. Like, the whole nation, MLB is talking about the Phillies. What is this the best team in the history of the franchise?
Well, we'll see how that rotation holds up in the back end if the third guy is now starting to leak a little bit. So we know a good team when we see it, right? Like, they're a good team, and to me, when they blew out the Dodgers, and I know the Dodgers were missing a couple of guys, I think that this team really should go to the World Series. But it's funny you mentioned the All-Star game, because I grew up in an era where the Phillies weren't very good year after year after year. And the highlight of a boy's life being a Philly fan was to have one guy in the All-Star game. One guy, just one guy, and how would he get in that bat?
Right.
And would he get a hit? Right. It was one guy. And I'm watching it the other night. I'm going, man, I love the baseball All-Star game.
So do I.
I love it. You know why? Because I love pitching.
Yes.
And that is the ultimate test. It's as great as those.
How about the matchup? Skeens. Right, against Judge and Soto.
Listen, I played baseball. I know how hard it is, right? You know how hard it is to face a guy who's going guns blazing, and you've never faced him, or it's the first time you're going to face him. You got no chance.
How about Mason Miller? And what he does, and then he breaks off that breaking ball. And how do you go from 102? To a 91-mile-an-hour breaking ball.
Pitching these days is ungodly. And Mason Miller, I know a lot of Philly fans are hoping to get him. That's going to cost you a ton.
Yeah, it costs you everything.
So you're not going to get him.
Yeah. He was an interesting story because, and we talked about it earlier, how he was throwing like 86, 88, and then they realized he was a type 1 diabetic. And then he was able to get all that velo. But
it is amazing how guys can just grow velo these days.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
look at the kid from Cleveland, the closer who comes in last night, and he's throwing 103.
The biomechanics have gotten to a point where they can study, and every little thing will increase your velocity. It's really amazing.
It is. It's so much fun. But you brought up the All-Star game, and you're right. Like, I was watching the game last night, and I watched start to finish, and I was like, I'm enjoying this game so much, and it took me back to my childhood. When it was like, oh, we got Glenn Wilson as an all-star. Like, that was like a big deal, right? Because the Phillies have had, and you said it brilliantly, the Phillies have had these long droughts, right? Like, you had my childhood was the 80, right, and those Phillies. And then they went all the way to 93, and that was a blip. And then 08, like those are long droughts.
Ricky Metallica was an all-star.
Right. Yes. Ricky Bo.
1996 when Fregosi was on his way out. At that point, it was
2017. Pat Neshek was the all-star for the Phillies.
Wow.
I remember back in the day, Wayne Twitchell.
Wow.
Who was like this right-handed. like he was. They were so bad. They had to pick a Philly. Wayne Twitchell.
Oh
was
my
the guy.
1973. Wayne Twitchell.
1973.
1970. Think about that. That was the horrendous year, right? Like, well, that
every year was horrendous until 76 when all those guys came up, and then 76, 77, 78. Then it broke your heart when it was the Dodgers and the Reds, and they won the whole bit. And then it got pushed over the top.
Who's your favorite 3 Phillies?
Oh, wow. When I was a kid, Dick Allen was my man.
Yeah.
In fact, I tell you, this is my proudest story ever. Well, there's so many stories that came out of this camp, but I got invited to play in this baseball camp in Cape May, New Jersey. It was a Philly-Yankee fantasy camp. And remember, we used to have the radiothon at WIP. Well, the guy paid like $3,500 to have me in this thing. So I had a double in the game, and Dick Allen was on my team. I sat down, he gives me a little nudge. He goes, you play ball? I go, yeah, I play college ball. He goes, you got a good swing. That's it, I'm out. I said, I'm done. I'm leaving. That's all I need.
That's awesome.
That's all I need to hear.
That's fantastic.
That was the camp that Joe Pepitone gave me a hard time.
Oh, really? You were going to fight Joe Pepitone?
Joe Pepitone.
What did he do?
He was busting my. When you're a media guy, these old players, they hate you. Right, so they're going. This media guy is playing ball, so he was giving me a bag of crap the whole time, and so I go. So I was giving it back to him. Like he's trying to hit home runs off these little pitchers. He's being BP, and he's taunting them, and he's hitting these. I go, Pepitone, you're kind of an asshole. And he goes, yeah, we medium pig. And so we were going back and forth. The other guy, Rick Cerrone, who was a catcher.
Yeah.
Same guy. You know, Cerrone, you got a big mouth or somebody hit 220. So at the end of the camp's finally over. Pepitone comes up to me and he says, you want me to sign a ball for you? No, I don't want a Joe Pepitone ball, but I'm thinking he's trying to make amends here.
Right. Right. So you obliged.
I go, sure, Joe.
Yeah.
He writes, can I curse?
Yeah.
My best effing wishes, asshole. Joe Pepitone. And he gives me the ball, goes, now try to sell that.
Like Joe Pepitone's going to get you anything anyway. What are you nuts?
I got a Pepitone ball with $5,000 for it.
Oh, that's fabulous.
There's one on eBay for $29.99 right now.
I bet you mine with my best effing wishes.
Now that ball would go for. He just made it way more valuable.
I put it in my trophy case right there.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. Listen, I got 2 minutes, and don't forget, we're brought to you by Rite Aid. That's right, Rite Aid. Get all of your favorite goods at the Rite Aid nearest you. Go to riteaid.com. I got we don't have enough time, but Eagles. Geez, we had the whole thing.
We shall see. 11
Saquon.
wins. I got 11 wins.
Really? That seems light. Does Jalen make that next step? Is he back or what?
No.
Wow.
That's next step.
Oh, this is a cliffhanger.
I don't think.
Oh my God, you're leaving me with a cliffhanger.
I don't think he'll be bad. I don't think that we'll I don't know. I can't figure him out.
You'll have coaching. You should have better coaching.
I hope so. I think they're good enough overall. Their offense won't be a problem. Their defense, I have no idea.
Right.
Their back end looks good.
Right.
The middle, I don't know how the end rusher. I don't know what's going to happen there. So we'll wait and see.
The Barkley thing is pretty cool. Like you at Mr. Penn State.
Saquon Barkley, and they got to utilize him as a pass catcher.
Yes, and that's something they never did.
So yeah, I don't have a problem with their offense. I just saw the top 10 ranked coaches or general managers are ranking quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Jalen's out of the top 10.
Yes,
So
and he we did the exercise around here. I had him 12th.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't mean he's gonna have a bad year.
No,
but he might have a number 12 year.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it.
It's been a pleasure, man. I had some fun.
I got to tell you, I love you, brother.
Love you too.
I mean,
this has been a blast.
I mean, not for nothing. You got to. We so much unfinished stories. So
we'll do it again.
We got to do it again. Okay.
Right. Sounds good.
All right. Love you, buddy. Here he is, the great Mikey Miss. Everybody, thanks for hanging. As always, man, we love you. It's a blast. Be careful, and we'll see you in the morning.
We all silly like the mayor.